Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's a very good day for me anytime I get to talk to my friend, Dr. Cesar Lara. He is, if you haven't heard his name, then you must be living under a rock here in Tampa Bay, but that's okay. He's here, and this will be the, second time. I almost want to start my Mondays with you every Monday because we got to have a wonderful half-hour chat before we even hit record today. So Dr. Lara and I wanted to just speak from the heart. That's what we always do. I don't think we know how to do anything else, do we, together?
No, that is truly the way to flow. The way to flow with the heart. Yes.
Flow. So I want you to say hello to the audience while I go grab a book that you gave me that is reminiscent of the word you just said. Say hello.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here on this Monday. Beautiful day. Just came out from the weekend celebrating and bringing attention to fathers. Father's Day. It's for me, my father has been a stern rock that was able to guide me, was able to support me, was able to love me, and help me develop the aspects of a man and realizing the responsibilities that I had to have as a man in order to raise a family, in order to become a productive human being. He always was there to share with me how we can help one another. And so now that I'm also a father, it also brings home the divine aspect and the gift that I've had in being a father. It's not so much the responsibilities that I have as a father that I bring attention to, but it's just the gift of having three beautiful children that literally are changing the world in their own way. And I am gifted to be part of that beautiful journey, having been there from the moment that they came into this world until today. And so happy Father's Day to all of those future fathers, to those current fathers, and happy Father's Day to those fathers that have moved on and transitioned, because they're still part of our lives. And so we bring honor to the ancestry of who we are, bringing honor to the ancestry of the idea of fatherhood. When we think of God, many times we think of our Father who art in heaven, and we bring attention to our Father in the sky. And so it's something that we need to realize that lives inside our heart. And so happy Father's Day to all.
Yes, happy Father's Day. I was, this is the book. So it's called Flow for our podcast listeners. This book has really brought me a lot of peace. It's a great book. I highly recommend it, and thank you for giving me this book. And I have so many wonderful books around me, especially during this time, because I don't think that we can even absorb enough knowledge of how to best flow through our current situation. I'm not going to call it anything else, but it's just the current situation that we live in today. And Father's Day, you being such a wonderful dad and having such wonderful children that I've had the pleasure of meeting, they shine your personality and Penelope's as well. And then your parents have been such a light in your life. And yesterday I posted a picture of Rob and his dad. His dad died when he was 18. Yeah. And Cooper's 16. So it never really hit me until yesterday when I was looking at those side-by-side pictures, because I recreated one when Cooper was just 4 years old, standing next to his dad at the beach. And Rob had been standing next to his dad at the beach, just looking out at the water. And they left for a boys' trip this morning.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have been doing this annual trip every year, and they left for Georgia. And they're just going to have some boy time. And it's so important, right? Like, you are the example, and our children are watching and listening and really wanting to learn from us how to navigate through this time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I wrote, like, we have to be careful with our words and our actions because they are listening.
Yes.
They are listening. And they sometimes can be a lot smarter than us.
Yes.
These children. So thank you for joining us today. I really felt so good knowing that we were going to be able to have a chat. And I know that you had mentioned What's kind of
in reference to that, something, because I saw this and I just looked at it to share with you, is before you speak, let your words pass through 3 gates. Number 1, is it true? Number 2, is it necessary? And number 3, is it kind? Those are the words from the Buddha, you know, so that we need to always pay attention to the words that we give our children, you know. Are we giving them an opinion that is basically just something that somebody gave us, or is this really based on truth? And you know, how necessary is for us to share this? So do we need to share something that is not necessary to share? And are we being kind? Because just because I think someone has doesn't look good today doesn't mean that I should go and say, oh, you don't look that good today, what's wrong? You know, that is not kind or sensitive. So I just thought that was such a beautiful, that I actually, you know, recorded into my phone so that I would have some perspective on that. So it brought attention to when you said in children, how we share the words and make sure that because they're looking for us to share something deeper than just whatever we think we're going to speak. We need to really monitor what we say.
Absolutely. And who knew? I think this is a perfect discussion today, because I was thinking about this morning. I went to get blood work, as I mentioned to you before, and this medical assistant, this phlebotomist that was taking my blood, was talking to me about her daughter, and I just asked her, you know, so have you been communicating, you know, with your daughter about your own feelings, and have you had like an open dialogue through this? And she said, you know, I haven't really mentioned it much. And I said, well, let's talk about that for a second. I said, so here I am, I'm 47 years old. And sometimes today, even when I go out and I see a bunch of people wearing masks, I'm like, oh my God, like this is the world we're living in, right? So imagine what it must be like through a child's eye.
Yeah.
To see that. Every time I see a small child walking by and I'm wearing my mask in a store or wherever, I always make sure that I smile so they can see my eyes.
Yeah.
It doesn't look so scary.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's so much challenges to our children because they're scared, you know, and if we're scared and if we, you know, say things in derogatory terms, they're getting all of that energy. And so they are really having a hard time. I mean, how can children in some schools or some daycare centers, they want children to be separated, no longer to be playing in playgrounds together. What is that like? What is it like to be a child when you can't play hide and go seek with the rest of your friends and play all kinds of other things that require you to hold hands and to go on the, you know, so the world is really drastically changing for our children. So we need to truly be aware of that and help them navigate in a way that is confidently.
Yeah, and be more just conscious of it and having those conversations. You know, I find great solace knowing that Rob and Cooper are driving to Georgia together today, having a boys trip and talking about life and the world. And it's certainly not a world that, you know, we recognized growing up.
Yeah.
So maybe this is great. Of course, you and I never get to talk enough. So it's just like me and you getting caught up and everybody getting to listen. I was listening to a podcast this morning about Gen Z and how they consume information and such. And Gen Z now, if we think about it, they have grown up even before the COVID-19 and before all the racial unrest. They grew up in mass shootings in schools being the norm.
Yeah.
So how, with all of this distress and trauma around, are we helping our children have these discussions with us? Because they do rely on adults or technology to kind of, you know, explain, you know, how life can look, how we can implement gratitude through tough times. But they do have a really great optimistic, says these studies that I was listening to this morning, even coming into all this trauma, about how they can put a positive spin on everything. They're much more conscious and aware of realities and can teach us as elders some more, you know?
And they also appreciate the fact that they are a lot more not so willing to just listen to the news, CNN or Fox or whatever your option is. A lot of the children are more focused on being able to get different perceptions from social media, and so they can Google things and come up with different opinions. So they're a lot more able to actually do their own research and be able to begin to navigate into thought ideas that are not necessarily homegrown. So that's why it's so important to actually communicate with them, because you may think your child is innocent. You may, if you ask him, that child may know a lot more than you realize, and he can teach you one or two things about things.
And it's not until we step back and we think about it from their perspective, right? Like once I heard that yeah, that is what they've grown up in. It's like, welcome to the world, everybody. You know, mass shootings, COVID-19, racial unrest, information overload, opioid crisis, mental health crisis, you know, because they say that they're growing up in strictly just social media. Like they don't even look up things on the internet. They don't go to websites. They go straight to social media. So the information that you're putting out, and I watched a video that you did actually this morning, which I thought was very good, bringing attention to Pride Month, which is June.
Yes.
And that is so important that we have these discussions about what we believe in as people, as businesses, because that really is, our youth is looking at that. So you're in a great community in St. Pete. And I'm so proud of you having those conversations, Dr. Lara.
Well, it's, you know, with my children, I mean, we talk about a lot of different things. I mean, there isn't too many things that we don't talk about. So, and they teach me a lot. So that's the beauty about having children. When you really begin to tap on their wisdom, their innocence can teach us a lot more than we realize, because it can bring us home to understanding what is really the most important thing, and being able to accept one another, being able to appreciate one another, being able to see the light in one another, and realizing that we're all the same. We're just different points of perception from the totality of all that we are, which is one. We are the element of oneness. And so all that is changing is a different perceptive point. So you're looking at it from this point of view, because you're at a different point of reference than I am at a different point of reference, but we all are part of this totality called oneness. And as we come in touch with that ability to appreciate each other that way, then we can begin to give up the divisiveness that thinks that, oh, you're different than me, or you're better than me, or you're not as good enough as I am, because we realize that we're just different points of reference for the same element of who we are, which is a total aspect of joy, light, and love.
Yes, I love listening to all that. And my mind is already going to the next, of course, about all of the different evolutions that you've had as just a human being, as a physician, as a dad, as a husband, as a friend, as a community leader. And I know that you have brought in, like, we want to help people, right? That's why we're here today.
Yes.
So you were talking before about how you've been bringing ceremony in to your patients, because you know right now that they're feeling unrest.
Yes.
So why don't you share a little bit about what that looks like?
So there's a significant amount of uncertainty. We no longer know what to believe, what not to believe. If we're paying attention to the external factors that are coming in our direction, everything is being painted in a way that benefits some entities. So we can either listen to this group or we can listen to this other group. But there's an essence within ourselves that has a sense of knowing. And that essence in ourselves is the element of light. And so in a lot of my patients over the last couple of months, there's been a lot more challenges with elements of fear. There's a lot more challenges with elements of uncertainty. They don't know whether they're going to be able to, what the world's going to be like tomorrow, or what they're going to do. And of course, their limbic brain, which is the survival brain that we have, is being stimulated significantly. That limbic brain, that survival brain, is the same brain that we have in common with the reptiles. So it's a very ancient brain that we have, and it's really responsible for allowing us to be able to survive under times of significant distress. But that particular brain is only able to focus on the survival modality, which means that it increases adrenaline, it increases cortisol, and so it's no longer able to help you heal because your body cannot heal when it's in a survival mode, and it begins to have consistent processing issues with obsessive compulsive thoughts, feeling more fear, getting more angry, getting more reactive to things. And so a lot of patients are kind of stuck into that mode. And one of the areas where I've been working a lot more with them, outside of listening to them and maybe working with some mantras and different mindset adjustments, is really beginning to recognize that there's an element of energy around them, which I like to call the soul. So the body is really, you got the physical body, you got the mental body, and then you have this energy aspect that creates our body that we call the soul. And that soul has to be healed because there's a lot of elements of disruption. So we can tell ourselves, I'm not going to think that no more. And you do that for 5 minutes and then it comes back to you. You know, you can't make yourself stop doing something that you don't feel good about by just thought alone. So what I've been bringing into the practice is a lot more simple ritual.
By dog barking. This is why we love Zoom interviews. Slight interruption with the dog barking, and we love that.
So the idea is to be able to begin to bring attention to rituals as part of our healing. And in our society, we have begun to really not practice rituals anymore. And so one of the primary rituals that I bring attention to is a fire ceremony. So this is a little candle. And as you can see, my candle is lit. And so fire obviously has been around for, it's been being used as an element of healing for millions or if not billions of years, but definitely in the millions of years, way before the internet, right? We were using that as a form of healing. And so it's a very simple exercise. So when I feel overwhelmed, let's say I'm overwhelmed because I have too many challenges going on with work. I am overwhelmed because of a relationship. I'm overwhelmed because of a health condition. I'm overwhelmed because my relationship between a loved one is not working, or my children. I'm worried about my children. Whatever it is, it's a heavy energy. It's a heavy energy, and that energy is stimulating our thought processes. So when we have that energy in us, it begins to make us be more worried. It begins to paint our reality. So even though we see how beautiful this is here, our mind is thinking, well, what about that? And what happened to him? What's happening to her? And so one way of helping us release that energy and be able to transition it in an energetic way is to create a little fire, like a little candle. And then what I would do is I would recommend that you take about 2 or 3 toothpicks, okay? And you would a little wooden toothpicks, and you would take a little wooden toothpick, and you will literally bring attention to the toothpick and then connect with the energy. So let's say the energy or the feeling that you're having is, I'm really mad. I'm really mad at this person because they said that, and I don't. So what you would do is you would bring attention to that emotion that is heavy, and you will literally blow it 3 times into this little wooden stick with intention. So you will go and bring that energy and blow it out. Then you will bring another emotion that is a heavy emotion. Maybe you're thinking you're not going to have enough money to pay for this, so you don't have enough for that. So you're feeling this element of lack. You're feeling an element of feeling uncertain. So you would blow that into this little stick, and then you would subsequently take that into the fire and just let it burn. And as you let it burn, you realize that that's no longer in your field. That's really beginning to be transformed by the fire. And then also be able to bring elements of good into your life. So let's say you really want more peace, you want more success, you want more abundance, you want more health, you want more time to be with somebody, you want more peace, you want more joy. You bring attention to that in another one of those little sticks, and you blow that 3 times with intention once you connect with that feeling, and then you utilize the fire to transform. The fire is something that transforms all life. We could not be alive without the rays of the sun. So the sun is transforming life. We could not have plants without the sun. We could not have anything that we know of like without that element of light. And so this brings attention to the transformational experience that is related to a simple ritual of working with the light. You can create a little altar, and you can put in that altar any aspects that bring element to your ability to connect with the higher power. It could be a cross, it could be a crystal, it could be a picture of a grandfather, it could be anything. And you begin to create this altar with all this beautiful energy. You put flowers in it every so often, because an altar needs to be fed to be able to continue to nurture that element of healing. And so rituals are a big part of it. Another part that I do sometimes is recommend that people take baths, but from a ritualistic perspective. So dim the lights, put some nice music, put some nice Epsom salts, and again, with a fire, bring attention to the idea of healing, be attention to the idea of releasing. And it's important for us to practice rituals, because rituals are the way to really change our energetic field, that it's feeding our mind, that it's feeding our body. So we know that for the body to heal, we need to eat the right things. We know that in order for the mind to heal, we need to think the right things. And if we think the right things, we can make ourselves heal the body. Or if we think the wrong things, the body can become ill. So we know we can make ourselves ill or make ourselves well by thought alone. But then when you're dealing at the level of the spirit, of this energy field that we have, if you can shift the energy at that level, then it feeds the mind and it feeds the body. So you can actually heal more profoundly by being able to practice rituals. And
well, I couldn't agree more. And your practice of energy medicine has only grown through the years. And I myself, I have rituals. I couldn't function in my life without my rituals.
Alone, that's like been such a major ritual for you to say, this is my church for you, that that you kind of think my church is the world out here, and I'm going on my bike.
I have so many more rituals, my goodness, especially during COVID-19. I couldn't get enough rituals in my life, because I really do. I think what you're saying is so important. And if somebody's hearing this for the first time and they're like, oh, an altar and all that, this is a progression of Rob is going to build me a she shed. My she shed is going to be a place of meditation, and I'll have my own ceremonies, and I'll have all of my healing oils around me to smell. This is after you have practiced the amount of healing and peace that comes from taking care of yourself first and getting centered with spirit, with some other source greater than yourself.
Yes.
Everything else will flow.
Yes.
Will flow. And you and I both know that this is not this comes with so much time and practice and learning, but it can be as simple as what you just said, just focusing on that candle.
Yes. Because
it is a deterrent from all of the chaos that might be going on around you.
Yes.
And centering on the good, on the light, on the positive. And God knows we all need to center ourselves, especially during these times, right? Because we have to stay mentally well in order to be physically well.
Yes. And remember to breathe, because I would say that is probably my number one discussion that I have with all of my patients is, are you breathing? Like people may say, are you eating good, or are your bowels okay? Or, for me, it's like, are you remembering to breathe? Because most people do not practice conscious breathing, and breathing is key to literally hacking your nervous system so that you can begin to be more relaxed and be more perceptive to the things that are right in front of you that you just couldn't see before.
Yes, and I have practiced. I now do breathing exercises before I go to bed, just through my nose. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm not great at it, but I do focus on my breath a lot in the morning, especially to set up my day. So you and I could talk all day, but unfortunately, not everybody wants to hear us. You and I enjoy talking so much that we could just stay on this for hours. But really, thank you so much. I think that it's so important that everybody gets to hear from you, because you've certainly been the calm through the storm for me and many others. And it would be selfish of me not to allow everybody to hear all of your great words of wisdom. So thank you for bringing us some peace. Thank you for talking about the children today and how we can be more conscious of guiding them through this time. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.